If we assume that the current way that we design, regulate and build our built environment is becoming quite obsolete, then we need new infrastructure, we need a new way to do it. I mean, I think of it as a kind of motorway, right? You know, if you need to build the motorway.
Disruption is the act of intervening with intent. It's the idea that you have enough knowledge and capacity to understand the way a dynamic system works, to be able to find the pressure point to leverage change within a system. And specifically in my context, and what I'm really interested in, is how disruption can be used with the intent to affect positive social change.
Looking at the systems behind design, looking at the system, the economics behind architecture and the built environment, the production models, the technologies, etc. It's not just any change. The disruption is not in itself good. You know, there can be good disruption and bad disruption. Our job is to actually ask, what was the question? You know, so it's actually positive disruption that actually makes us more, not less, useful to society.
I think one really interesting area that has a lot of kind of press attention at the moment is the use of VR, particularly all the headsets that are coming out. And I think that actually does have a really interesting potential to change the way that we design within architecture, we visualize within architecture, and we kind of experience architecture.
And so when we look at it in the overlay of the landscape of architecture and our communities and our cities and the built environment, I think disruption is very much about how we can create spaces and experiences that maximize the happiness, efficiency and beauty of our communities and our social fabric.
WikiHouse was conceived as a project to explore what that would mean, and the only way to learn is by doing it. And so we did. So we started looking at how we could use digital fabrication combined with open source code, effectively open source designs, to effectively make it possible to share openly designs, replicate them, iterate them very, very fast, and then locally manufacture those building components which can then be assembled very, very simply to a very high level of performance.
Being able to kind of step inside models and look around in real time, I think that's going to be a really great next step in kind of visualization. It really has the potential to change the way we design at the early stages of kind of concept. I think, it really has the potential to have a much more collaborative approach to design and really understanding space.
A lot of the concepts that we talk about never become a reality, and that's a huge problem. If we've got just disruptive thought rather than disruptive action, I actually call it the knowledge action gap. It's so frustrating. We have all this knowledge about how we need to be sustainable as people on this planet, but we don't have the investment, political will, and the social kind of impetus to get these amazing disruptive ideas out into the world.
We always have to be forcing ourselves to look not at the technology, but at the question. Again, as Cedric Price said, we should be less interested in bridges and more interested in how to get to the other side.
Architecture has always been influenced visually by the tools that we use, and I think this is the next paradigm and the next tool to kind of really influence the way that we shape the built environment.
All of these design decisions have dramatic impacts on the planet, on people, on our understanding of how we can work better, we can live better.
We are about to go through a half century of massive challenges, massive urbanization, climate change, complete reinvention, and we need that. We need these technologies to help us tackle those problems.
And I think that then when we think about disruptive design, we need to think about the way in which our design decisions are dramatically impacting a mass of people, but also that their decisions are then having a flow-on effect within the wider systems that are at play in the world around us.
If from now on we're going to be living in a digital world, how can we make that a world that we actually want to work in and a world that we actually want to live in? How do we design that?
We, first of all, look at solving problems, big problems that we see in the function of products, and look for ways of improving products through engineering and developing technology and research and science. And quite often the form changes as well, particularly if you take a form follows function approach to designing products, which I totally support and believe in. I think that thinking differently sends you down different avenues of investigation, and you can discover great findings. And we've just got to keep striving to do better in the buildings we make, the products we design and manufacture, because it's for us. It's for our quality of life and for future generations.